Alright everybody, we're going to do a hero tier list. I did one many years ago, but we're going to do one now. I have a community tier list here. I have two problems with it. A, they didn't do forced distribution, which means, 12 out of the 17 characters get shoved into S and A, which is like such a cop-out. But having the shield breaker C and the flag B, I'd also just say it's just blatantly wrong. So even of those 12 out of the 17, I would say they actually missed 2 that should have been up there. So in all reality, I think this tier list by this community, I don't know how many was, but whatever, but kind of gives me an insight to see what the community thinks. I don't even know how the occultists made it to A, if this is a community tier list, to be honest. I feel like everyone memes on them, but maybe I just read the bad stuff. I don't know if it goes from order either, like Vestal's number 1, Highwayman's number 2, Hellions number 3. You know, like I don't know if that's true either, but of course the Vestal would be number 1. We're going to talk about the Vestal. She's still going to be largely one of my most controversial, along with the Jester. I look at the game very differently than, I guess, these 129 tier lists, if that's what this is. I'm going to give my rationale for it. You can agree or disagree, obviously. So we're going to go to the template. We're going to add a row. It's already here. Okay, well, the screen's going to be black until I can fix it, because I started one, but then I had some tech issues, so I had to restart. So this is technically my second time going. I was only about a third of the way through, but we'll restart. So I'm going to go the Highwayman in S tier. Overall, I think he's one of the more survivable, fast, high damage dealer, riposte, point blank, has the possibility of ranged, and does have a DOT. Like overall, he is a damage output's dream, except for maybe 4th position. Only really pistol shot exists. Very good with bosses with Vendetta, if you like that. I'm not a huge fan of Vendetta, but it is a viable strategy, especially for large HP people, so I'm not going to poo-poo it. If that's what you do, I can definitely see why. The only negative I guess technically the only 2 negatives. The 0 team skills. But who really cares, because the only way you advance in Darkest Dungeon is if you kill stuff. So I don't really even count that as a negative, that he has no team support. He's a damage dealer, and he excels at it. The only other one is he's kind of low on HP, but his speed and dodge is decent enough that he will probably go within the top 3 most times if he doesn't have like some detriment to his speed. So easily the best damage dealer in the base game. The next one I'm going to pick, probably similar damage, maybe less because of no riposte. I think the shield breaker has to be S. The only crucial thing about her that's like actually terrible is just the fact that she has very low HP. I do lose shield breakers a lot in apprentice and veteran, so getting them to champion with like the speed trinkets and survivability can be a little tough, but I think their upside is so big, even that squishiness in the first like apprentice veteran level does not put her as a bad hero at all. And you kind of need RNG to lose a shield breaker. It's not like they just walk in a dungeon and die. It does need to be like a series of like kind of unfortunate events for them to die. So it's not even like you like take one in, you're like, oh, there's a 40%. No, I mean, when I say I lose them, I lose maybe like 3 to 5 heroes per campaign, and like 4 of those deaths, 3 of those deaths are apprentice. So I push my heroes, so yeah, if they're going to go to death's door, I don't care, they're apprentice. But so shield breakers' lack of HP and the lack of strong heals to bring up shield breakers will often result in their deaths. But their pierce is really good. They can pray guard. They can go through protection. Got an AoE blight ability that you can just, like spin off each other. They work very well with a Highwayman, actually. They obviously got block tokens, which kind of make up for that. Almost every skill they have is generically useful, can de-stealth, can increase... I mean, they got utility to AoE, to pool, breaking guards, to going through high protection. This character breaks all the base game mechanics. She has to be S tier, in my opinion. I may not have actually originally believed this when I put the Hellions to 3rd best, but doing my random playthrough, like my random parties playthrough, I'm beginning to realize I actually really like Hellions. I think I have 3, now that's kind of due to the rules I put on myself, but I really like them. Her self-limiting factors don't really hurt that bad unless you're in a boss fight, or if you get some really bad RNG, like if you use a couple abilities and then she just misses them, or obviously the enemy dodges. Other than that, She can self-sustain, great throw versatility, pretty good quick burst damage, and like I said, she actually works with a large variety of parties because she's not set in stone in the first position. That's where I would argue she's probably her best with, like Barbaric Yawp, a double stun, Iron Swan. But she can function really well into 2 with an option of moving into the first position with a breakthrough. So overall, I think she's actually one of the better damage dealers. Pretty sustainable overall. And I really think playing with her recently, I think she actually deserves to be in the top 3. I think she's, without the Shield Breaker DLC, she's definitely like top 3 damage dealer. Next, we got the Houndmaster. The Houndmaster, I think had a little lower, not too much lower, but this is definitely a step up for him. I think his scouting, his dodge, his AoE, DOT ability, the potential to increase his damage with the dog bone, his scouting skills with campfires is just far too good. He can melt some bosses. He's extremely good in the Warrens, which is a tough place to be. He can self-heal. He can stress heal the whole party. Overall, I think he holds a lot of things other damage dealers wish they could offer in terms of utility, and he's just got it. So overall, I think between his bleed, his peak damage with a mark, and his utility in terms of camping skills, as well as healing himself or stress healing the party, and he can function between positions 2 and 4, easily one of the best heroes in the game. My next up is the Plague Doctor. Pseudo same reasons for the Houndmaster, maybe not so much the camping skills, but definitely the control and damage abilities that the Houndmaster can also offer. Double stun the back row, stress damage is all champion level is. Like, once you get to champion level, controlling the back row is all you want to do, and she is one of the best ones at doing that with double stuns. We're getting double blights back there. She can shuffle a party with a good stun. She can do massive DOT in the front row with high protections. She can actually make damage dealers do more damage with emboldening vapors. There's really not anything bad to say other than if she maybe gets pulled to the front row. She is a little squishy, so if she gets targeted, she can go to death's door quickly. But her battlefield medicine can heal off DOTs, adds a little HP. All around, she's just a well-built character. I always love Plague Doctors. I think they work virtually anywhere because of the stun or blight chance. So even if they have high blight resist, there's still stuns and pulls and heals you can do with her. Alright, to start off the B tier, we have the Man-at-Arms. The Man-at-Arms is really good. Decent at damage. Obviously not going to be the high end of all the people above him. But the utility skills of Bellow, Bolster, the campfire skills actually break the game. If you get like 2 of them, you get like 30-40 dodge between 2 Man-at-Arms. Puts your party around like average 60-70 dodge. Most skills are going to miss you. So he's really good at that. He's got a stun. He's got a riposte. A decent, just normal attack. Like I said, Bellow, reducing speed and dodge is crucial for some enemies. He's obviously, him and the Houndmaster have guards, which are vital for certain boss fights in this game, so he's an excellent counter to a few bosses. Lots of HP. Obviously a slower speed, but it's not the end of the world because he's not always someone who has to go first, so him going 6th, 7th in a composition isn't terrible. So overall, I think his utility saves him. The fact he has riposte also really puts him up there because, like I said, he can actually do decent damage. I find myself usually having at least 2 to 3 Man-at-Arms. I used to think having 1 was enough, and then I realized how good they were, and I almost, like I said, always keep 2 to 3. They have gained a lot of respect for me over the years of playing. A tank in a different way is the Flage. The Flage is obviously tanky in terms of, let's just be honest, RNG and self-heals. As he gets lower, he can self-heal. Big bomb, big damage on the enemy, big blight, not blight, well, big blight in Darkest Dungeon 2, but big bleed in the first Darkest Dungeon. Obviously, the limitations, kind of like the Houndmaster with the bleeding, is mostly the ruins. There's some other high bleed-resistant enemies, such as in the Cove, but they're not, obviously, like, immune as the Cove, as the ruins, but they're definitely higher. But he's got some pretty good utility with the over-time healing. Can massively heal teammates, so if you time your HP right, he can self-bleed himself. You walk into a fight, you redeem, 2 people just pop back on HP. So he's very durable. He can do pretty good damage the lower he gets on HP. Not a bad team player. So overall, he's a pretty good bleed option. as well as a backup healer. I'm not a huge fan as him as the primary healer, but as a like, oh, I just healed 2 people to complete full HP with them healer. Unmatched. I mean, no one else in the game can honestly get close to giving as much HP as he can on a reliable percentage. It's just you obviously have to have the conditions and use his turn. But other than that, he's top 6 to 8 for me for sure. Let me get my boy the Crusader in there. The Crusader, though slow, high HP, his damage abilities are rather simple, and there's nothing flashy about them. Smite, Zealous Accusation, Holy Lance. Holy Lance for back row, just got to make sure his accuracy is increased. He's not, once again, he's not the best damage dealer. He's not the highest accuracy damage dealer. But against unholy enemies or with a comp that allows for him to Holy Lance first, he can pump out some pretty good damage. There's no denying he has the higher end of damage against certain enemies, especially with some setup. His utility skills are pretty good, and his HP does allow him to obviously tank a lot, so he can heal, he can stress heal, gain back torch, which saves you money on that. So all around, he can save you money, save you stress, stun enemies with a pretty good, strong stun. You can pop off some pretty good damage on the stun. Like, he's just a good, straight damage dealer with utility, which is why he's a little better than the Leper. We'll get to the Leper. The Leper can be useful in certain situations, but overall with the Leper, you're preferring to just essentially cut through paper rather than try to like oddly jigsaw him into certain positions. I put the Vestal in B, and I'm still slightly conflicted about that, but I look at the next ones, and any given day I could maybe swap it for 1 or 2 heroes below, but overall I'm going to put the Vestal here for now. I had the Vestal in C last time, and she's essentially on the verge of C again. And let's just talk about it. If you play reactive or have bad Bardi compositions, the Vestal is going to be S for you all day long because of Divine Comfort and Divine Healing, right? She has the most reliable, strong AoE healing in the game. Outside of that, okay HP, like average HP, slower speed, lower dodge, accuracies are stuns are she's just a heal bot, right? That's why I'm kind of like put her at B. She does not excel at anything other than mashing one button for AoE heal. Like, even the Crusader's single HP heal can get comparable to her single. Now, her single will obviously be better, but I'm just saying, like, in terms of how much more extra HP you get on a single, the Crusader can get there with an item or 2, just like she can. So, obviously, the only card she holds above everyone else is an AoE heal. And I understand that for you may single-handedly put her up in the S tier, but I don't think it does. I think, like I said, I think she's slow. I've lost a lot of Vestals, where having a Vestal in my party has made my damage output worse, and her average stun is not all that great if you have to pick between a stun and a heal, you know what I mean? So for me, she's useful. I won't ever say she's not. She certainly makes party compositions a little smoother if you have a bad one because of the reliable HP, but I think the more you play the game, the more you'll get away from her. I put her up at B, probably because of flavor of the day. Do I really think she's like the 9th best character? I mean, that's right about in the middle. That'd be average. Yeah, I guess. I can see her there. The only other person I think I'd maybe swap her with is the Occultist, and that's going to be my starting the C tier. The only reason I put the Occultist in C, it's kind of the same reasons as the Vestal. He's a little better in terms of utility, though. I think his pull's better, his decreasing of protection, the decreasing of dodge, marking. His damage skills they're weird. They can be really kind of bad at the same time they can be decent. So it's like he's not the highest end damage dealer, but he's also a little more respectful than the Vestal. Weird reconstruction is obviously ability, crit 0, bleed, kill your own teammates. If you don't know you have to heal early and often with them, you may wait until someone's lower. Like if you had a Vestal and then you run into this weird scenario where you get a 3 and then they get hit and then you get a 5, like you can't keep up. I only put him in C because I like a lot of other back row people than him. For example, the Plague Doctor, the Hound Master, Even a man-at-arms in third position. Maybe if, like, there are a lot of back row people I really do prefer over an occultist, and that's why he's down here at, I guess, the 10th best. But on any given day, I was using occultists way more than vestals in my newer playthroughs. In my random playthrough, I don't get to pick the parties. I didn't get to pick the party comps I came in, so I think I only have one occultist, and I barely play them. I have a lot more vestals just because they showed up. But overall, yes, if I want reliable and comfort, I pick the vestal, but I think if I want more util, Mark and Bark's one of my favorite teams, and the occultist is a key factor in that. So, some pretty good util, some okay damage. Pools are really good in this game, but I guess in terms of reliable healing, we'll drop them down to C. Jester, this may come as a surprise, but if you really think about a Jester, they fill about two roles. A Battle Ballad Stress Heal, which, in terms of what you get from Battle Ballad Inspiring Tune, it's like the best tune in the game, so obviously I know his skills are really good. Once you kind of shift the damage, it gets weird, because if they can't bleed DOT, you got like Dirk Stab and Finale, or you're just smashing Battle Ballad, and it's a very... he's like the utility Vestal version of I spam one ability, you know what I mean? You got Inspiring Tomb for Stress Heal, and you got Battle Ballad. Both are very good. He's got high dodge, but lower HP, so he can be a little susceptible to getting blown up. Obviously, the speed and dodge make up for that, and increasing your whole team speed. I like Jesters. They just are kind of one-trick ponies, and sometimes that is a detriment, because, like I said, if they can't do anything other than just spam Battle Ballads, it's like you're kind of playing 3.5. Now, your other 3 heroes are so cracked out, it may make up for not having a 4th hero. But I always really enjoy having a full 4 be able to function on the same exact turn. And that's why the Jester is a little lower. I have used them in many comps, though. I have used him recently in different positions in my random parties campaign to great effect. I think he's a really good character. Guys, the tiers are just for discussion. So far, all these heroes I've mentioned, extremely useful in certain scenarios, some more than others. But to say like, oh, the Jester's in C tier, I think he's crap. No, it's just a forced distribution. So not everyone ends up in SNA, right? Like the forced distribution is essentially, if you had to pick a top 5 or 10, who's in that, right? And essentially he would just fail the cutoff, which honestly, I do believe that. I don't think if you're like, you could keep 10 heroes in this game, who doesn't make it? I don't think the Jester makes it. Because I think the Crusader and the Houndmaster could easily make up for his stress heals. I really do. Between Cry Havoc, Cry Havoc and Inspiring Cry, I think they can make up for that. And then the Man-at-Arms kind of got his Battle Ballad. Once again, debuff chance has to go off and it has to hit the enemy. It's not even close to as reliable, but it's a pseudo Battle Ballad. I'm acknowledging that. So overall, I think a lot of stuff other people can do up to 80%. So why would I sacrifice a whole position if I can get a lot more other stuff for just essentially Battle Ballad Inspiring Tune? That's the way I see him. I love him. I've used him. I use him to wreck the Drowned Crew every time with high dodge. Absolutely useful. Just a little bit of a one-trick pony. We get to the boy Leper, my Leper. I had him a lot lower in the original tier list, and that's because certain factors really affected it. On my personal level, I love the Leper. I think he's really good. I don't think he has to be just pure damage. I've actually used a few Intimidate strategies on bosses to reduce their damage to great effect. The Prophet being the biggest example I've done. But he's really susceptible to either having to use Purge to knock enemies back, so he can hit squishier enemies, or he's choppy into like really high percentage people. He's slow. When he does revenge, he takes more damage and all that. So like, he's a top tier damage dealer, but without the row versatility or the speed, which obviously drops him. Now, big sword, chop through stuff. I love it. With a party comp around him, such as a Jester, he can really pop off. So if you have someone to heal him and enable him, also like a Plague Doctor, this guy can go ham. Obviously, his accuracy is also crap, which does not help. So overall, he does have some weird utility abilities. he can honestly self-sustain, which is really great. So he's got some weird utility abilities that are actually really good, but he is rather limited. Row 1, he essentially has to live in if you want to use him to the maximum, which means if you are having people that shuffle him out, like a Highwayman, a Shield Breaker, a Hellion, he immediately becomes less useful. So overall, he's extremely position dependent. Accuracy is bad, he needs buffs. There's a lot of holes to fill, but once you do, he can really accelerate. But we have to acknowledge he is flawed. Bounty Hunter is next, and the only reason why the Bounty Hunter is down here is I still think his utility abilities are actually insane. I like saying that, utility ability. That is a fun thing to say, and it sounds just like a mess of words. But I love his hook, Come Hither. I love Flashbang. I love Uppercut. I'm actually starting to like Caltrops a little bit. I didn't think I would, but in these random party compositions, I have to use Caltrops. Not terrible. Still not great. But Finish Him and Collect Bounty, I have found is just kind of underwhelming at moments. It's not bad damage. He's kind of good with the row versatility of him. It's just, I think his utility abilities are so much better that, like, using him as a pure damage dealer setup is not actually ideal. I love the Bounty Hunter for mark compositions, such as Mark and Bark. I will say that probably another 3 times. I'm kidding. Man-at-Arms, Occultist, Houndmaster, and now the Bounty Hunter are all done, so never mind, no more Mark and Bark. But he's crucial in Mark and Bark. Like, he's just absolutely needed. He can do high damage. He's kind of a boss killer sometimes with the campfire abilities. He's a weird one. I had him rated much higher. And I kind of felt like that was true, but if I had to pick a top 10, he wouldn't make it. Like, at least how I feel today. He wouldn't make it today, so not a bad hero. Definitely always have at least, for sure, at least one. I usually run 2 of every class in this game, except for people obviously in DNF. I usually only run 1 of them. But Bounty Hunter, probably I'd lean towards 1. If I pick up a second, it's not the end of the world. Abomination in D tier. This is going to be the hero where you go, what about the Colors of Madness DLC? Okay, yes. If you add the Colors of Madness DLC, his stun goes from one of the most meh to heck yeah, let's rock up. You know what I mean? Like, his stun goes from mediocre to not great to just stun lock everybody. So if you include Color Madness, you get the trinket. I could see you moving down to Bounty Hunter or I guess maybe the Leper. You know, so I still don't know if I'd put him in B because once again, it's like, yes, you have a really good stun, but what else is he offering? He doesn't offer anything in position 4. When you transform, it's an overall party stress, so maybe if you pair him with a Houndmaster, you can counteract that. In terms of damage, he can be pretty good at it, but if you transform and you miss, it feels extra terrible because you took stress damage, you gave everyone else stress damage, and then you missed, you know, like it. I like the idea of the Abomination. He's got all of his skills always available. You never have to put any on or off. So, like, you know, you always got his Blight util. You got his stun. Then when you transform, you got your AoE. You got your knockback. You got your rage. Like, he's not bad. He's just not my favorite damage dealer because of the on-off switch, I guess I'll call it. Like, he's useful with the trinket on that makes his stun better. He's very useful. So if you really like the Abomination, I understand all of your arguments to move him up further. I just think he's a little bit too, like, one-dimensional each way you go. It's either all raw damage or all, you know what I mean? Like, there's no nice mixture of, okay, if I don't want to light the enemy up for a 30 crit, it has to be a stun. But if I need to, like, switch to damage, then I got to do that. But then I can't really get back, like, I don't like the you have to be all or nothing. As you can tell, a lot of the characters I have, if you're all one thing, it's just you're already made that way, and it's not going to affect your party. You know what I mean? Like the Shield Breaker and Highwayman are all damage, but I don't got to transform you and stress yourself or my party to do that. You're just there. You know what I mean? Like, so that's kind of like, if you're all support, you're already all support. I get 4 really great support abilities because he essentially gets 2. He gets a Blight, which is not bad. And you get a stun, because the other you heal yourself. So, like, and then the other transforms. So you get 2 utility abilities. to maybe like the Plague Doctor with a Man at Arms, 3 utility abilities, which are just what I would call way better, right? So that's why he's D for me. Not that he's bad. It's just I think there's a lot of people who do each one of his things way better, minus the stun with the trinket. All right, moving on. Grave Robber. I don't know if I ever get a lot of pushback for Grave Robber down here. My only complaint about her is she's like the 70% version of the Shieldbreaker, I'll call her. I think the Shieldbreaker's got pretty good pop-off in terms of like raw damage. Obviously, it's the lunge on the Grave Robber. I just feel like she needs a lot of setup. Or her like thrown dagger and flashing daggers is and her toxin trickery, I believe it's called, doesn't actually heal her. It just gives dodge and cures. So if she's on Death's Door, she does not get off Death's Door, which is a huge problem. So I honestly think if you put the Shieldbreaker in the game with her, it's glaring. Like you got picked to the face, but it minuses your damage and can only hit the first 2 positions. Pierce can hit everywhere and crit for like a 28 to a 30, I think, on champion level, which can just delete a back row stress damage dealer. She can't even lunge to 4th position, guys. But the Shieldbreaker can just pierce that position and kill it in 1 turn. That's why the Grave Robber is by far so inferior to the Shieldbreaker in terms of damage. Honestly, in terms of blight, in terms of damage piercing, survivability, I mean, the Shieldbreaker can at least block 2 attacks. She can just only cure increase dodge. So if you get bad RNG, she can still die. At least the Shieldbreaker could take yet another 2 hits. So overall, I don't think she's that survivable. She has to move big distance if she's going to lunge. So your party has to be ready for her to lunge. The Shieldbreaker does shuffle a lot, but typically positions 1 and 2. Not from like 3 to 1, kicking your second position 2-3, which is usually a massive deal. So overall, I think she's very position dependent. She shuffles your party a lot and does not even come close to the same levels of damage expected by the Shieldbreaker. Arbalist and the Musketeer, I'm just going to group them together. I think there's a small difference between both of them. The fact that I got them down here, I don't really care. So they are useful. Once again, every hero in this game has their use. Even the lonely Antiquarian at the very end, I'll talk about her. I don't like Mark comps, which is automatically going to put them in dog crap land, because I think Mark comps are extreme overkill for regular enemies. I do not need to do, usually, 55 criticals to kill 1 enemy. There are a few enemies that I would not mind deleting with the 55 crit, but that means I got to set up a Mark, and then I got to hope it crits, right? I don't really like doing that. I either like pulling them, stunning them, or just finding 2 people who can do like 20-25 damage each. You know, like maybe I take 3 turns instead of 2, but someone's not completely reliant on them being positions 2 to 4 with a mark on them. Like, I'm just not a huge fan of them relying on marks. Their heals aren't terrible. They can clear stuns and clear marks, which are pretty good for certain bosses, which is why, once again, they are useful. They got slower speed. Their HP, if I remember correctly, is not bad. Their dodge, I think, is average. So, like, overall, if I want to commit this person to position 3 and 4, I think the Houndmaster offers more in terms of self-heal and AoE damage and AoE heals. And it can also do a pretty good, like, mark damage. So, even the high-end damage can kind of get made up by the Houndmaster. The stress heals are better on the Houndmaster. Obviously, you get the stuns and marks, but that's really only boss specific against the Swine God. Plague Doctor's got more control, can do more DOT damage, can cure stuff. Like, it's just everything she does, someone above can do something and better, I think, personally, which is why she's down here. Excellent damage dealer when set up, but overall, that's really about it. Like, I don't know. It's just that class needed a little more love, and they never got it. And finally, we get to the Antiquarian. She's only an F because of the lack of damage, survivability. Her skills are actually, and I think I said this before, they're actually borderline broken depending on how they wanted to implement them. Like, her increasing dodge every turn, I have to double check. I think it only lasts like 2 turns or something. Like, I forget how it goes, but if she could essentially just spam 30 to 40 dodge for you, or if that dodge is like even a little more, that would be really broken. You could take, like, by turn 3, everyone have like 60, 70 dodge. With the man-at-arms, it could be 80, and everyone's got like a 15% chance to hit you. So she could be kind of like disgusting that way. Her blight's not great, but it's also really close. If it had another DOT or more, she'd actually be really good. The fact she gets you so much money could also be another reason. Like, her heal adds blight and bleed resist, but for a low heal, so it's like, oh, blight and bleed resist, unlike the Plague Doctor's cure. So it's like your preventive healing. Like, it just, all of her skills are not bad in theory, but they're missing either a component, or it's just not high enough number. Obviously that was probably due to the fact that she gets you a bunch of money. You don't want to make like a B+ character who then also gets you an extra 15,000 gold per dungeon. That'd be kind of stupid, kind of broken. So obviously in terms of fighting, yes, the Antiquarian's at the bottom, because if she was a lot better in terms of damage and all of her like dodges and stuff were up there, then yes, she'd be a completely busted character, because money is practically everything in Darkest Dungeon. So if you had a character who could make you all the money all the time and had honestly even average to slightly above average skills, it'd be the most busted character in the game. So obviously she has to be down here in terms of, dodge, HP, damage abilities, duration of them, like obviously she cannot be busted. But the reality of it is, as I will always say about Darkest Dungeon, killing your enemies is the only way to advance. If you never kill an enemy, you just sit there for forever and the game never ends. So she does not kill enemies quick, and the other two people in her same row need a lot of setup as well. Let me know what you think. I think the list is very similar. I know the top 3 for sure are. The Bounty Hunter definitely got moved lower. The Vestal, I think, technically gained the tier. I think the Flash dropped a tier. The Man-at-Arms dropped a tier. I think I swapped these 4 characters in the tiers, which once again doesn't really matter because I'm saying they're top 7 in the game. So if your top 3 to 7 is just slightly different than mine, it's like, who really cares? We agree they're in the top half. You know what I mean? I think the Occultist dropped. Leper gained 1. I think 1. The Bounty Hunter might have been A. He might have actually dropped 2. But yeah, no, my biggest surprises, though, like, that I genuinely, on a non-categorical, believe, the Helion's the biggest one, because I thought the Hellion was, like, kind of misplaced in S. Now I've played her more, I go, nope. I really do think she belongs, like, right up there in the top 3-4 people in the game. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think down below.